The president of France is suing Candace Owens for defamation, and you really can't blame him. I'm Cameron Kasky from Bulwark. I'm joined today by my friend Ellie Schnitt. Ellie, it seems like you have been too busy to actually follow any of this.
Oh yeah, I got way too much going on to keep track of whatever bullshit Candace Owens is saying this week.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, Candace Owens, our friend Hassan Piker calls her Clandis for good reason. She's a white supremacist. She has launched this absurd conspiracy theory on her huge platform with the YouTube video called "Is France's First Lady a Man?" We're doing transphobia, folks, and this is something that the right likes to do with Michelle Obama a lot. You see a lot of MAGA types and everything either genuinely suggesting that Michelle Obama is actually was born a man and is a trans woman, or just doing it for the troll of it all. But no, Candace Owens has alleged that Brigitte Macron was born a man, stole another person's identity, and transitioned to being a woman. This was promoted widely on Twitter, and Candace says this was, quote, likely the biggest political scandal in history. Dante, let's play a clip of Candace Owens talking about this.
Time for you to wake up. So we will start from the top here with a photo of Brigitte Macron. Real name, Jean-Michel Trogneux. That person that you are looking at on the right is not a woman.
So Candace has put out this conspiracy. It's feeding her very conspiratorial base. And a lawsuit has been filed by Macron's lawyer saying, quote, Owens has used this false statement to promote her independent platform, gain notoriety, and make money. And Candace had a response. Let's take a look.
You were born a man and you will die a man. That's the point I'm making. So give us a sample. I'll send my doctors to take your blood. We'll figure it out real quick, however you want to go about this. Hey, how about just giving us some pictures again of you growing up, raising your children? That would be fine. For whatever reason, to phone, by the way, like I said, we'll get to the bottom of it, right? That is what Discovery is for. We're going to ask a lot of questions. You're probably hoping, this will go away, and at least we'll say we sued her. We'll say we went after her. She'll probably file for this to get dismissed. I'd like to make it to Discovery. I think that we owe that to the world. Anyways, you guys, we are revolting against this. We're revolting against the perverts that run the world. And I want to be very clear here. I count you among them. I think you're sick. I think you're disgusting. And I am fully prepared to take on this battle on behalf of the entire world. Okay? That's what I'm going to say. On behalf of the entire world, I will see you in court.
Not on my behalf. And let me just say something. There is somebody who's revolting here. And it's Candace. This is crazy. I'm sorry.
That was really good. You killed it with that. You had me on the edge of my seat, and then you delivered. But Candace was originally a lib, right?
I do know that she was a lib until she discovered she could make more money being a conservative, because the conservative grift is the most cost-effective thing on the planet. There's actually so much to unpack here. I think the double down is fascinating. We can go into how the transvestigation and trans panic is so beyond and so insane. But I do just want to point out that the double down on this is really stupid, because in America, the bar to clear to sue somebody for defamation is very high. Our freedom of speech protects a lot of speech. To sue somebody for defamation is actually very difficult in America to do that. It is not that difficult in other countries to sue somebody for defamation. And I think she does not realize how big of a problem that she is about to have. She's going to have to retract this. She's going to have to apologize for it. It's going to be embarrassing for her, but she should be embarrassed. This is embarrassing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I feel I wasn't very surprised at the transvestigation stuff. I'm trying to think, though, who besides Michelle Obama have I seen there be transvestigatory
They were transvestigating Hassan Piker.
They were transvestigating Hassan Piker?
Yes. These people have lost their minds. If you ever are bored and need to see something that makes you kind of mad, but also kind of laugh, go to the I don't know. There's a Reddit where they do transvestigations, I believe, or it might be a Facebook page. It's anyone you can think of. And they're on there wait, actually, I think this person was FTM, but then transitioned MTF after that. Well, they're crazy. They've lost it.
I wonder how many standums do it as well. Standums that think they're kind of actually woke, but then when somebody pisses off their fave, they start transvestigating. I feel like you probably get a little bit of that. But
I don't know.
yeah, transvestigating Hassan is really interesting. It seems as though it's just sort of a weapon of theirs. It's not something where they think they're doing any sort of investigation to report anything meaningful. It seems like just sort of a bludgeon. Like, I don't think the people who started the transvestigation into Michelle Obama actually thought Michelle Obama was a trans person. I think they were just like, oh, you know, here's a way for us to try and humiliate this black woman publicly. But
yes and no. I don't know. I think that the people who, you know, propagate these things, I think like right-wing influencers and right-wing sort of political leaders or whatever, I think that they don't believe their grift. I think for the most part, with some exceptions, they're doing it because they know that they have dumb people who will believe them, and they're like pandering to that. I do think their followers, fans, listeners, whatever, I think they do believe that shit. Like, I think that they do. And I think they're taking advantage of people who have lost their minds.
Well, I think it's multiple factors. I think you have the grifters up top who are almost definitely all aware that this is just some stupid bullshit to get their base riled up. I highly doubt that any of the grifters on top really believe this. There's a point at which political influencers, I think, and this is something I say about people all across the political spectrum, from the fucking Maoists to the full-on Hitlers, like everyone who's doing political grifting, to a certain extent, the politics that they put out for their audience and their own personal beliefs, the line can get kind of blurry. And I think a lot of people who might start doing something more aware that it's a grift might actually kind of get lost in the sauce as time goes on. And I think it's sort of like a merger between two companies, but with somebody and their own shtick, their own bit. I think that there are certain people who acquire their bit and merge with their bit, and then suddenly there is a degree in their consciousness to which they're aware that this is kind of a show, but they're so doubling, tripling, quadrupling down publicly that their brain starts to form this pattern of reassurance where it's not that they truly believe it, but there's enough noise in their head to yell at them that they believe.
Yes. I also think at a certain point, you feel like you're like so far in that you have to like keep defending it because you can't be wrong at a certain point. I think a really interesting example of like a right-wing influencer or whatever, like who you can tell when his heart's not in it versus when his heart is in it. Someone very interesting to me is Ben Shapiro. Because, you know, he like really is a conservative. Like, in his heart of hearts, he is a conservative. And a lot of the things that he talks about, he means that shit. You could always tell when he's doing some culture war bullshit thing that he like doesn't really believe in. Like, his heart's not really in it. That's always funny to me. I'm like, okay, this is clearly the line right now. This is what you're all supposed to talk about. He doesn't give a shit. And that's funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's audience capture. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine who's not like a Ben Shapiro super fan, but is definitely a Ben Shapiro apologist yesterday. Like, Shapiro definitely had a lot more hardline conservative beliefs. And then it just got to a point where the Daily Wire's audience got so far right because of people like Matt Walsh, and they used to work with Candace. They fired her for anti-Semitism. I wasn't sure what the actual story was, because Ben Shapiro would fire somebody for anti-Semitism because they said that Palestinian children shouldn't be getting murdered. So I was like, oh, what was Candace's anti-Semitism? And then I looked and it was like, no, she's like saying that the Jews are evil. So I was like, okay, that's an anti-Semitism fire. She's like Nick Fuentes. They'll like talk about how what's happening in Palestine is terrible. And you're like, oh, okay, you know, maybe they're shining a light on this. But then you look at what they say and you're like, no, this is just a Trojan horse for Jew hate, where they're using Palestinian suffering as an excuse to spread more Jew hate. But anyway, like, people like Matt Walsh and Candace, and I guess maybe that former drama kid, Michael Knowles, they sort of got so many hard right followers that someone like Ben Shapiro sees where his audience is, and he realizes that if he doesn't ultimately bend the knee to MAGA, he's not going to be able to hold his audience, and they're going to eat him alive if he keeps on doing the actual conservatism that doesn't have room for somebody like Donald Trump. Yeah,
they call him like rhinos, Republican in name only, if they don't like exactly follow the line of MAGA.
Yeah, so in 2021, Shapiro was strongly condemning the Capitol riot, saying it was a terrible attack on democracy. He did this on Bill Maher. And that was because I think he thought Trump's time was over in a way that I think a lot of us did. You and I actually met in person. We had met online, but we met in person the day of the Capitol riot. I know you know that. I'm telling the audience. Ellie and I met not only the day of the Capitol riot, but also the day my childhood dog Kizzy died. R.I.P. Queen. But yeah, and now you see in January of this year, Shapiro was saying that a lot of the people from the Capitol riot who were being pardoned were like, you know, given too hard a time and they were being wrongfully treated. So there's this very clear narrative with Shapiro where you could see him trying to do the real conservatism that you're talking about, but just MAGA keeps dragging him further and further into them. And he will occasionally throw common sense something of a bone, like when Trump was taking a plane from Qatar and stuff like that. But ultimately, like, there's no room to not do MAGA in that space. But I just want to go back to this thing with the Transvestigation stuff and just say, I think most of the grifters up top know that they're just being manipulative. Candace, I don't know. She's so insane at this point that I wouldn't be surprised if she believed it. But I think in terms of how the base feels, I think you're right to say that a lot of those people truly do believe that not only is this person they're transvestigating a trans person, but that's also like a bad thing that needs to be proven. But I also think that so much of how that stuff catches on and lives is the people who are just memeing along with it. I think a lot of the Michelle Obama is a man messaging thrives on conservatives who don't actually think that's a thing, but they think they're owning the libs by talking about it.
Yes, I completely agree with you. Another interesting thing that Candace said in that video, though, I will say, is she's called, they love to call like trans people predators, which I just think is funny. Like, release the Epstein list. How about we talk about some predators? Why don't you guys talk about that? Like, they're all backing off on that now.
Files, everybody. Yeah.
Release them.
I mean, I would say the Republican Party can never talk about predators again, but you know, you could say that the Republican Party could never talk about the economy and the deficit and all that. So I think we're far beyond the hypocrisy stuff. Ellie, I know you have a meeting, or else we would get into the May-December elements of the Macron relationship and riff on that, but maybe some other time. Everybody, don't defame people and don't do transvestigation. Let cis people be cis people. Let trans people be trans people. Ellie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, anytime.